Hi, Mark. How are you doing? I hope you're doing
I'm
well.
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Hello, Nish. Lovely to meet
Hey
you.
there.
Thank you for coming to
Love
the forum. I believe it's your first time, so thank you for joining.
it is Natalie.
Roman, hope you're doing well, my love. It's been a while since I've seen you. I don't know if you're able to put on your camera. If you can't, please don't worry. Okay, so Mark, you've been here before. Nish, you haven't. Just to let you know, I've let the room run for a couple of more minutes, see who else is joining us. In the meantime, if you just like to go into the chat function and just put in what you'd like to gain from today's session. Hello, there's his lovely face. How are you doing, Roman? Hope you're doing well.
Good, thanks.
Thank you for joining me. Yes, so just go into the chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from today's session. So today we're talking about the use of ChatGPT or other AI when it comes to writing books. But there could be specific things that I may not cover in my presentation. And what I'd like to do is make sure that everyone goes away from this session feeling like, well, at least they got some answers to their questions. So if you can just go in there, that would be great. So we have Nisha saying, learn to write children's books. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Mark saying, understanding about how best to use AI in terms of writing books. Mark, is that what you're looking at? Or
In terms of writing books and the sort of what to do, what not to do, what to avoid.
excellent. I think this will really, really help you because one of the biggest complaints I get with AI is, oh, I can tell. I get that all the time. I can tell when AI has written it. It sounds so robotic and it doesn't sound right. And my answer to that always is, well, they kind of go, oh, you're absolutely right. I've probably read some AI written content in the last couple of years, but it was done so well, I didn't realize it was AI and say, exactly. So you only notice it when it's done badly. And the whole goal of today's session is to show you, hello, Keith, hope you're doing well, my love. The whole point of today's session is to give you, I know we only have a short amount of time. I mean, I can talk about this topic for probably days and you don't have days to give to me, so we only have 45 minutes together. So it is obviously like an overview, but hopefully it'll give you an understanding of how to use it correctly, Mark, so it doesn't sound robotic and it actually sounds like you, because that's the whole point. You want something that will make your life a lot easier when you're creating content, but it does need to sound like you, otherwise it just defeats the whole point of it. Okay. So Keith, as well, if you want to go into the chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from today's session. You've got your book launching in October, I believe, so that's getting quite close. I hope you're excited. But yes, okay, so I do have a couple of people who said they may come in later, but let's get started because I don't want to keep anybody waiting. I did promise you it's 45 minutes and then I'll set you free into the world, so I don't want to take up any more of your time. I just want to give you 45 minutes of solid information and food for thought, and then you can go back into the world and hopefully use some of what I've taught you. Okay, so let me get started. Let me just bring up my slides. Okay, and if I can ask if ever, most of you are already on silent, but if you can just put yourself on mute just while I'm speaking for the next 10 to 15 minutes. You've probably gathered I'm walking very slowly, but I'm walking on my treadmill. Any loud noises, I may just end up in that bookshelf, which is the last thing you want to see, I'm sure. So therefore, it's helpful to me if there's no loud noises, okay? So let me just start sharing my screen. Okay, so can you all see this? Excellent. Okay, hello, Cambria. Lovely to meet you. Thank you for coming today. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, Cambria, because you've just joined us, you can go into the chat and let me know if there's anything particular that you want to know or want to learn today. And that way I can make sure I cover that subject. Okay, so you can go into the chat and let me know. Okay, so let's get started. Where are we? Slideshow. Okay, so first of all, welcome to the Thought Leader Author Forum. We've got a number of faces that I've seen before and a couple of new faces as well, so welcome one and all. So what we're going to do, well, let me just talk about the structure of the forum. It's always in two parts. The first part is we talk about a topic of the day. Today we're talking about the ethics of ChatGPT. And we're looking at prompts for brainstorming, book planning, and writing that will save you time, energy, and frustration. And then part two, as always, is my favorite bit of the forum. There's a reason why I have this weekly forum. I get asked to do a lot of masterclasses, workshops, webinars with different people. And I really enjoy them, don't get me wrong, but I do find myself just speaking for an hour and I get sick of my own voice after an hour. So the reason I created my own weekly forum is I'm just going to present just for 10-15 minutes, just give you some ideas. And then the most fun part of the forum is when you guys get involved and you actually have questions for me, have feedback, tell me how you've used AI. I've even learned in these forums. There's sometimes someone's come on and they've given me a tip and I thought, oh wow, I've never thought of using it like this. And then I've been able to go and utilize that in my business and teach my teams. So that's the best bit about the forum, getting involved and getting the most out of it. So I encourage you to do that. Okay, so, and also because you've taken the time and effort to come to this forum, you will get this workbook sent to you. It should be tomorrow mid-morning or maybe early afternoon. My awesome assistant, Joycey, who's in the crowd with you right now, she will make sure it's sent out to you. So if you want to write notes while I speak, you can do, but you don't have to because everything I talk about is going to be sent to you tomorrow mid-morning, afternoon anyway. So you can sit back, relax, and just take that information in. And also just to thank you for coming to the forum. The Vegan Publisher, my team and I, we partner with an amazing organization called B1G1. And what they do is they allow us to funnel our efforts in terms of money that we give to charities and nonprofits. And we're able to funnel it in a way so it suits what my audience wants. So in the past, what I used to do is at the end of each tax year, I would donate a certain amount of my proceeds to various nonprofits and charities that I chose. And then I thought, well, actually, why am I choosing it? I should actually allow you guys. You guys are part of my community. You guys, welcome, Stanley. Lovely to see you again. It should be you guys who choose and help me and my team figure out where we should be donating the most money to. So just to thank you for coming to the Thought Leader Author Forum, let me actually put this link into the chat. You can go to this link. Let me actually find that link because that'd be so much easier if I just give you the link. Here we go. So let me put this link into the chat, and then that way you can just click on this link. And then you just pick one of these amazing organizations or these amazing causes. I know the most difficult thing is which one do you choose? They're all amazing. But just pick one of them, and then we will make a donation on your behalf. So it doesn't actually cost you anything. You're just helping us facilitate where our funds need to go. So make sure you do that. That is our gift to you. So you can go away after these 45 minutes feeling very, very smug and thinking you've done your good deed for the day, basically. Okay, so let me come back to this. Okay, so earlier this week on Monday, I decided to poll my audience on LinkedIn, and I wanted to see what their thoughts are regarding ChatGPT. And it's quite interesting because I've ran this poll a couple of times before, and it's interesting to see the changes that are happening. When ChatGPT first came into public consciousness back in November 2022, I ran this poll, I think 2 months after, I think it was in January of 2023. And the number of people, the percentage of people who said they would use ChatGPT was only 19%. So I think people are very wary of it. And they're like, oh God, I'm not really sure about this. And lots of people are saying it's unethical. Lots of people are saying they don't know how to. It's quite interesting to now see in September 2024, 50% are saying yes, with 6% saying, no, I don't know how to. And we still have 44% who say it's unethical. And I actually understand, I actually get it. I know where that feeling of ethics comes from. So I do actually get that. We'll talk a little bit more about the ethics and where I stand on it, and that will give you an idea. So some of the comments that I got on the poll this week. So Marie says, using ChatGPT to assist in writing can be a powerful tool for generating ideas and refining content. It's essential to maintain your unique voice and creativity. Very, very true. This is what I mean about, I'm sure you remember when ChatGPT first came out, there was a rush of all these AI generated books on Amazon, and they were garbage. They really were garbage. They do nothing to help you. There's nothing wrong with using AI to help you generate ideas, to refine content, but you need to keep your unique voice and creativity. Miff says, certainly not to write a book, more likely to use it to proofread and check for typographical errors, as well as to brainstorm. It's true. You don't just let it run amok and just write a book for you. Tiva says, I'd use ChatGPT for ideas and drafts, but I'd still write the book myself to keep it personal and authentic. So that's what you're going to learn today. How do you use these tools? And by the way, when I say ChatGPT, the only reason I'm saying that is that's become the one that people know. But to be honest, anything that I'm going to talk about today can be used in other places. So for example, I've started to use Gemini quite a lot, mainly because my business operates on Google Workspace. So it kind of makes sense that the large language model that I would use would be Gemini. I've also been playing around on Claude, which is another large language model similar to ChatGPT. And I'm finding that I'm getting more human-like responses with Claude rather than ChatGPT. So please be aware, when I say ChatGPT, it doesn't mean that is the one you have to use. You could use another large language model, and pretty much anything I talk about will still work on that model as well. So the unethical use of ChatGPT, and the really unethical use of it is it's plagiarism and cheating and passing off work as your own. That is what you should not do. I think that's the biggest issue that people have, is that it's a hive mind and it's sucking in all of this information from other human beings, and it's not really giving them any credit. It is ultimately, well, it's a gray area. Is it plagiarism? It's regenerating the word. So it's not exactly taking things word for word, but then it is being influenced. And I guess that's where the gray, and that's where I sit on it. I'm not even sure sometimes. Because when is it plagiarism and when is it just inspiration? And we don't really know. And we're in this really brave new world where we're trying to figure it all out. And I think the next few years are going to be really, really interesting. And legislation has to be made at some point. We need to figure out what is plagiarism and what is we're just taking inspiration, and where do these large language models lie? That is going to be the big question over the next few years. But in the here and now, the main unethical use of ChatGPT is plagiarism and passing off work as your own. And it just, well, first of all, don't do it, because if you do get found out, if what you've written is very similar to what's already been written elsewhere, but you've not given somebody credit because it was regenerated by ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whichever one you're using, it's going to be terrible for your reputation if you get found out. The whole point of writing a book, especially the kinds of books that I help my clients write, is to build their reputation. It's for personal branding. It's to turn them into a thought leader on a specific subject. What's the point if you're going to end up being found out that you're using other people's work? So it's terrible for your reputation. And even more importantly, it doesn't work if you're looking to become a thought leader on a particular subject, which is what my clients, that's why they come to me. They want to be seen as the authority, the expert on a specific topic. Well, that's the whole point. The whole point is the world wants to know your thoughts. If it's not even your thoughts and it's basically other people's thoughts, and you're not adding your own self, your heart, your soul, your stories into it, then what is the point? You don't really deserve to be a thought leader on that subject anyway. So it really, really doesn't work. Whatever you do, whatever I teach you, don't use it to such an extent that you're getting it to do 99% of the work. You should not be getting any AI to do 99% of writing a book, especially one for thought leadership. Okay. This is a wonderful, great friend of mine, and he said this recently, and I stole it. I actually told him that I was stealing it. I was ethically stealing it. I did tell him that I was going to steal it from him. And he says AI should be for augmentation, not replacement. For years, I've been saying that AI should be called augmented intelligence and not artificial intelligence. We should use it to augment our capabilities, to extend or broaden our capabilities, to give us better insights and perspectives. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's why I've stolen it from him, because I couldn't even create a phrase that was better than what Robin says. AI should stand for augmented intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. I think that would ease some people's fears. It's not here to replace us. It's here to augment us. Okay. So let's get started. This is where it gets exciting. So a word about prompt engineering. I'm sure this is one of these phrases that I bet 2 years ago, no one said, but now you hear it everywhere. Prompt engineering. And it sounds so technical. I think it even scares some people. Like, what is prompt engineering? It's actually really simple. It's all about giving ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using. It's about giving it context. That's the biggest thing, context. Okay. If you ever see any comments on LinkedIn or you see a blog article and it sounds robotic, it means the creator didn't give the tool they were using, usually ChatGPT, they didn't give it any context. So I'm going to show you something that I've learned and I've learned from other people, a great way that you can give any large language model you're using some context before you get it to do anything. So the first thing to do is you want to let it know what is the task. What do you want it to do? That's the obvious one. Most people do that. Most people put in a prompt. The first thing they say is, write me an email or write me an article or write me whatever it is, write me a chapter in a book. So that's the easy bit. Most people do this bit. It's the next few bits they don't always do. The second thing is put in what is your audience. This will change the output that you get. So put in who is your audience? Who is it you're trying to reach with your words? The third thing is use examples. This one always makes me laugh when people complain about ChatGPT and say, oh, the emails sound terrible. The emails all start with, I hope this email finds you well. Who writes that? And I start laughing. It's like, well, why are you not changing that? Because I just have to assume that maybe the CEO, what's he called, is Sam Altman. I assume that's how he starts his email. So that's why ChatGPT starts its emails like that. But it doesn't need to. You just need to tell it. You can give it examples. You can even feed it one of your own emails and say, can you model this email? So go back into your outbox and look at some of the emails that you sent recently. Find a good email. You'll be able to see that you have a specific way that you introduce yourself. You have a specific structure in your email. You can literally feed it your emails and use the trigger word model. So you say model this email and then just copy and paste your email. Now, once it has that context, any emails you wanted to create after that will not start with, I hope this email finds you well, but it will start with your way, the way you introduce yourself, the way you structure your email. By the way, this is a great way. This is an extra tip. This is a great way that you can model other people's work as well. So if you get emails from someone, say you're on a marketing list, and there's someone who writes really great emails and you admire their emails, or you admire the way they write their articles, or even books, you admire the way they've written their book, you can actually feed that into ChatGPT and say, model this. And now what it's going to do is whatever you wanted to write, it will model the structure. It will not copy it. It will not plagiarize it. It's not going to suddenly start taking in some of that. That's the key thing about the trigger word model. Model, it makes it understand that what you're doing is you're looking at the structure and the flow. You're not actually talking about the contents. You don't want the ChatGPT to rewrite that email or article or book even and pass it off as yours. No, you're wanting to model its structure, its flow. And that's a really good trigger word. I use it for lots of things. And it's such a, I mean, I'm a former copywriter. And oh my God, if I can think of the literal hours I spent studying copywriting from the greats. And now I just think, I don't need to do that anymore. I can just literally say, Keith's laughing, but it's so true. I can literally just say, model Dan Kennedy's style of sales pages. And I can get it to write sales pages for me in the style of Dan Kennedy, which is one of the biggest copywriters in the world, one of the most successful copywriters in the world. It's just amazing what you're able to model. This isn't plagiarism, by the way. Like I said, it's not taking the content. You're not asking to rewrite the content and pass it off you as your own. You're getting it to model a specific structure and flow. It's really powerful. So make sure you use that. The fourth one is character. This was a game changer for me when I learned this. You can tell ChatGPT or whatever LLM you're using, you can give it a character. So you can say, hey, you're a life coach and this is what you want. Hey, you're an accountant and this is what I want you to write. And it will actually, it's almost like a really good actor or actress. It's able to take on the character of what you want. So you can, and that makes it sound more like you. So whatever you are, if you're a life coach, if you're an accountant, you're a graphics designer, let it know what you are. Because then that gives it more context, and then you'll find the output is far more accurate and sounds like you. If you're a lawyer, lawyers can be they have to be, they're kind of a little bit wordy. But if you're writing for something, say you're writing for other lawyers, that'll be very different to if you're a lawyer writing to the average person on the street. So say you're writing a book that's going to be read by other lawyers, you want to give ChatGPT the context. And then it will understand. It's like, oh, so this is to other lawyers. I need to sound different than I would if this was a book to somebody else. So make sure you put in the character. And also length of output. I tend to find 1 and 5 are the ones that people use quite a lot. Most people put in the task what they want what they want ChatGPT to do, and the length of output. Although I do see some people forget to put the length of output. Remember, if you don't put length of output, sometimes what it will do is start creating reams and reams of information for you. Other times it'll just give you a paragraph and you needed something more. So do give it the length of output, give it in words. It's usually, this is how many words. For example, for an article, I would say write a 2,000 word article. And that gives it a ballpark figure of how long you want it to be. But 1 and 5 are usually, I see people using them, but where people forget is audience, modeling something, and character. So what I want you to do is, if you just take away just this from today, by the way, like I said, you'll get this in your workbook, so you don't have to write this down, but start getting to a habit of using these 3. So before you get to do anything, say, I want you to write whatever it is you want it to do. What audience is it for? Give it an example, something to model, whether it's your own work or somebody else's work that you want it to model. Give it a character. Think of it as a really, really good actor, trained actor, and you want it to act in a specific character, and the length of output. And then please do contact me and let me know what your results are, because I bet you're going to find the output is far superior than what you've been getting. Chances are you've probably been using 1, 2, maybe 3 of these, but you're not using all 5. I'm now trained. Every single time I go into ChatGPT or any of the other models, I instantly go in and I put task, audience, I put in what I wanted to model, I give it the character, and I give it length of output. And I found by putting these 5 things in, the output that I get is just so much better than what I used to get. Okay, so let's now go into specifics that my clients are using to help them write their books. Okay, so generating book ideas, this is so good. This has been a game changer for some of my clients. Sometimes I would say 50% of my clients come to me with a very specific idea for their book. Okay, it's already in their heads. They've been wanting to write this book for a number of years. They know exactly what it's going to be about. But then I also have roughly 50% of my clients who know they should write a book. People tell them they need to write a book, but they're not entirely sure what the book should be about. And the biggest worry I have with those clients is they're going to end up writing an encyclopedia. I sometimes have clients that just want to literally pour their entire brain, Keith's laughing again, but they just want to pour their entire brain into a book. And I just think you can't do that. Your book's going to be this thick. No one's going to want to read it. So we can't do that. You need to be more specific. You can't literally just write your entire life story and every thought you've ever had in your brain into a book. That's not going to work. ChatGPT and other LLMs have been fantastic for this. So you can go in and put in the prompt, generate 10 ideas for, and put in whatever it is that you need to, whatever it is. In fact, let me actually do this. I think I should have. In fact, what I've decided to do, instead of ChatGPT, I've actually got Gemini up. Here we go. Because I want to use something different there this time, because I just want to show you that whatever I teach you, you can actually use it on another large language model. It doesn't have to be in ChatGPT. So let's actually do that. So my example is generate 10 ideas for a non-fiction book about the topic of animal agriculture and environmental impact. Now, please bear in mind, this is not engineered. What I would do if I was doing this for real. Oh, hang on a minute. It's not allowing me to do that because it thinks I've taken an image copy. Let me just see if I can do that. Oh, how irritating. It looks like what I'm going to have to do, if I put it into a notepad, would that be more helpful? There we go. I have to actually put it into notepad after an extra step there. Okay, and straight away, look at that. Now, a little bit of a word of warning, I haven't engineered this. What I would do if I was doing this for real, before I put this prompt in, guess what I would have done? I would have done this. I would have put in the task. I would have put in the audience I'm looking for. I would have maybe put in a model of some sort. I would have put a character in and the length of output. Okay. I didn't do that because I'm just demonstrating here for you, but that would make this even better. But even without the engineering, you can see how great this is. It's already giving you ideas. Hidden costs, and they're all quite different. So this one's about sustainable protein. This one's about the water footprint of meat. Can you see, like someone who's, say someone who's an expert on animal agriculture and the environmental impact, chance are if I met someone like this, actually I do have somebody who's looking to write a book on this next year. If he didn't have something like this that can actually sort his ideas out, chances are he'll end up writing most of this into a book. Then you have this huge thesis of a book that's just unwieldy and no one wants to read it. You have to get specific about what you need to write about. And ChatGPT and Gemini, as I'm demonstrating, and any of the LLMs, Claude is a particularly good one. It's fast becoming my favorite. It gives you ideas, and then you can say, okay, I quite like the idea of this. And then you can go further. This is called prompt chaining, where you can actually put in, give me more details on this, what I could write about. And then it will give you even more details. In fact, let's just do this. Let's just see how this works. Give me more ideas on the ethics of meat and more order. And let's see what it comes up with. There we go. And it's just expanded that. And again, this isn't about, I mean, this is where people go wrong. They go, oh, brilliant, I'll just do this now. It's already given me. And then what they'll do, they'll keep going into each one and expanding it. And then next thing you, this, by the way, this is how the first people, you know, they were creating AI generated books on Amazon and they were terrible. That's what they were doing. And they just kept going deeper and deeper and expanding each section until they had 30,000, 40,000 words. And then they published that. Not only is that unethical, because there's nothing that you've generated here. This is all AI generated. Plus, you've taken loads of other people's ideas and now passing it off as your own. This is just to give you ideas. Now you need to put in your own expertise in here, your own stories, your own knowledge, what you've done in your career, in your business, in your life. That's what people are interested in. You know, this is just to give you a structure that you go, oh yeah, I can talk about intensive farming practices because I've got experience. I experienced that 10 years ago in my consultancy or whatever it is. This is where you go in and you put in your own thoughts. But can you see how this makes it so much easier rather than starting from a blank page, which is one of the most overwhelming things to do, especially as a first-time author. I've been there, trust me, in 2015 when I did my first ghostwriting project for a client. And I think I just looked at a page for about 24 hours before I even started because it was just daunting. Just even starting to write was daunting for me. Yeah. So I hope you can see how that works. Let me just go into the next one because it seems like what I'm going to have to do is copy each one into a notepad and then put it in, which is a little bit frustrating, but here we go. ChatGPT for identifying sources. This is a really good one. As a thought leader, you're not expected to literally just have your thoughts in there. You can use other people's work. You just need to give them credit. That's the thing you need to do. And ChatGPT and other LLMs, such as Gemini, are really, really good at this. So let me actually put this in. So I'm going to have to put it into here. And then copy it from here back into Gemini. So let's do that. And there we go. It's even listed scientific journals, organizations, governmental agencies, research institutions. I mean, it's fantastic. You can now go to these places on Google and you can actually find what can you put into your book. That shows rigor. That is a real thought leader, by the way. A lot of people assume that thought leader is just someone who has loads of thoughts. So I guess that is true. That's you're called a thought leader. If you want to be called a thought leader, you should be having loads of thoughts. But that doesn't mean your thoughts can't back onto other people's thoughts. No one's an island here. If you think about it, everything that we've learned has usually been learned from other human beings. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just giving them credit. And ChatGPT and Gemini, as you can see, are very good for finding reliable sources. And then now, a word of warning here. It's getting much, much better. Hallucination is very, very rare now with these LLMs. When they first came out, well, not when they first came out, when they first became public, I should say, they've been around since 2017. We just didn't know it. You know, us normal people, we didn't know about it. The tech industry did. But when it became public conscious, which is like November 2022, there was a lot of hallucinating going on. It doesn't happen much now. However, this is your reputation. So just because it shows on Gemini doesn't mean you should use it as it is. Go and check it out on Google. That is on you to make sure that you check your references and everything is correct, because there still is a small chance of hallucination. But I hope you can see this is so much easier than Googling. I find things much easier on Gemini than I do going into Google. I use Gemini first for my search now, and then I go and verify. So that's really interesting. I mean, I come from a generation that it was my generation that turned Google into a verb. It used to be a name, but we use it to actually mean we're searching for something. And yet now I don't actually go to Google. I go to Gemini, and then I verify on Google. So it's already in my lifetime, there's a change. I'm now using Gemini to search and Google to verify what Gemini's told me. So use it in the same way. Don't just go, okay, well, it's on Gemini, it must be correct. There's still a chance of hallucination. So make sure you do that. Next prompt is oh, I've just done that. Oh yeah, I've just said that. Warning, you must check all the sources online. Don't just go with what Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT is telling you. ChatGPT for expanding on text. That's really good, because sometimes we all get a little bit, you know, I get that. I mean, I'm a writer, so if it happens to me, it's definitely going to happen to non-writers. When you just can't really figure out what you want to say, you've got a few words, but you know you need to expand it, but you're not really sure how to expand it. You can get an LLM like ChatGPT or Gemini to do this for you. So let's actually give it a go. So let me just put it in here. And if I go here. So generate ideas for expanding upon this paragraph. So what I want to do is, this is what I've written. I'm just thinking, oh, I can make it more convincing. I need to say more, but I'm just feeling a little bit tongue-tied today. Don't really know what to say. Let's see what it comes up with. Oh, we've got Alan who's just come in. And as you can see, it's completely expanded it. Now, again, remember, I've not engineered this. That's why you can see it's expanded a little bit too much. It's like we've now gone from this, a paragraph, to now it's literally, it's probably too much. I just wanted to expand a little bit. So if I was engineering this correctly, remember the 5 things that I went through, I would have, the 5th one was length. So I probably would have said, expand upon this paragraph to make 150 words, and given it a rough idea of how much expansion I wanted. As you can see, this is a good example. It's hugely expanded it. And it's like, I'm not sure if I wanted to expand it that much. Although it's pretty good. It might maybe think extra things I need to put into my book that I didn't think of. And I need to go out there and understand these things to put them into my book. So you can do that as well. But yes, the number of clients I had I started helping people write books back in 2018. And the number of times people will come to me and they'll say, I just feel I need to say more on this point, but I don't really know what to say without sounding like I'm just repeating myself, and I don't want to just repeat myself. I just think, oh my God, where was ChatGPT then? Or where was Gemini then? I would have to brainstorm with those clients, and we'd figure out how to add a little bit more substance to a particular paragraph or even a whole chapter. Now we can just put things into ChatGPT and Gemini and see what it comes with. And do we actually use it as it is? Of course not. That's ridiculous. But it just stops that blinking cursor syndrome, that feeling of, I'm stuck. What do I do with this? You can just get it to give you ideas, and then you can amend those ideas. It's so much easier to change something that's slightly wrong than to start from scratch. And that's what these LLMs give you. They're not to be used like as they are, but they're just great for just stopping that when your brain gets stuck and you're not really sure what your next step needs to be. Next one that we use, and this is really good, for generating an outline for a book. The number of times I've had clients who said, it's all in my head, what I want to say. I just don't know in what sequence I need to say it in. So and sometimes they're stuck, and I'm having to work with them. It's like, it's all in their brain, but it's like, what is the sequence that we need to get this information out? Now we can just use a prompt and see what it comes with. So let's have a go at this one. So this one is, it's really irritating. I didn't realize that I needed to, if I'm taking something from a slide on Gemini, I actually need to have an extra step by pasting it into a notepad. But there we go. So the prompt was, please write an outline for a non-fiction book about social mobility in the UK. The book should be around 200 pages and should include chapters on the government's role, the history of social mobility, and how the UK rates against other first world countries. Again, not engineered. I've got some of it. I've got 200 pages. But if I was purely engineering it, I would put an audience. I may even get it to model a specific 2 or 3 books that I admire on this subject. I can give it so much more context, basically, but just for demonstration's sake. But as you can see, look at this. Introduction, defining social mobility. What does it mean to be social mobile? Thesis statement, the UK social mobility landscape is complex and multifaceted. What it's influenced by, the government's role in social mobility, the history. I mean, this is great. It's literally telling you. Now, with any of my clients, do I just say, right now, just go and write this? Absolutely not. Because where's their thought leadership? Where are their stories? Where are their experience? Absolutely, this isn't a case of just go and do this in this order. But now it gives them something to think about. They can say, oh, yeah, that's what I need to do. But then they might say, you know, I think, for example, I would say the history of social mobility probably needs to come before the government's role in social mobility. So you can move things around, you can take things out, you can add things in, but it gives you something to work off. Can you see how it's just so much better than just having a blinking cursor? And you start going, where do I start? I've got all this information in my head, but I just don't even know what should be in chapter 1 and what should be in chapter 2. Just get these tools. They're fantastic tools just for getting something out there. Do you go with this as it is? Absolutely not. But now you can go through and go, oh, yeah, that's cool. Oh, no, I don't like that. Oh, yeah, actually, no, I know what I need to put in here instead of this. And then you rewrite that section. But I just find that as humans, we find it so much easier to correct things and amend things than starting things from scratch. Starting things from scratch is where the overwhelm usually happens. Whereas when you have something already, you can then change it. And I've even had clients who've changed 75% more of what an LLM has given them, but they've been able to do that better than if they just started from scratch with nothing to help them. Okay. Final prompt that my clients use, and this has been brilliant. We used to agonize over this. My very first few clients, we would agonize over what to call their books. What should be the book title? What should be their subtitle? By 2019, because they agonized it over so much, by 2019, I'd even created 16 templates. So what I did is I went off and I studied some of the best-selling books on Amazon and other places, and I analyzed their book title and subtitle so I can give my clients templates, so therefore they can stop playing around with words with those templates and they weren't starting from scratch. Don't even need to do that now. You can literally just use Gemini or Claude, and it literally has a hive mind of some of the best books out there that have ever been written, and it will actually create you titles. So let's try and do that. And again, it doesn't mean you use them exactly as it is, probably not, but you've now got ideas that you've got a jumping off point. That's the key. Okay, I need to go here if I remember correctly, because there we go. So it was, the prompt was, please generate 5 different title and subtitle options for a book about social mobility in the UK. The book should be around, there we go. So again, I just put in the same context as before, so it understands. Again, not fully engineered using the 5 points. If I use the 5 points, this would be even better. But here we go. Upward Bound, a journey through UK social mobility, and what the subtitle could be. The British Dream, social mobility in the 21st century. Class. See how clever it is as well. That's what I love about it. It's actually using metaphors and class act. Well, everyone knows UK is very class-based. You know what I mean? It's one of the most classist societies in the world. So yeah, I love that class act, the changing face of social mobility in the UK. Stuck in the middle. Again, it's just so clever. And before, my clients used to sit there, we have to brainstorm and try and find the best titles. Now you just, and does this mean you just pick one and go, yeah, I'm going to do that? I mean, you could do, but I wouldn't. Just, you could make it your own. Another thing, by the way, remember, you want to still check. Upward Bound is really, really good, but there could be a book that's already written called Upward Bound. Now, as far as I'm aware, you can actually write a book with the same title as somebody else, unless they've, the way it works is if you write a book, unless you actually trademark the book title, then somebody else can write a book with the same title just because you've written a book, but you don't want to, especially if it's on a subject that may be completely different to yours and you may not want to be associated by it. So again, the main warning here is don't just go with whatever it gives you. Go and stick it into Google. In this case, what I would do is I would put these things into Amazon. In fact, let's try and do that. Let's go stuck in the middle and let's go to Amazon and see if there's a book that's already written. It'll be interesting just to see. I'm just doing it now just to actually see. So we've got stuck in the middle. Here we go. So we've got, it's a very different book. So we've got Stuck in the Middle, a story about separation. That looks like a children's book. And then I don't know what kind of book this is. But so that doesn't mean you can't use Stuck in the Middle, but you need to just do your due diligence and see what other books have already been written about this subject. Is it going to be okay with you to have the same book title because it's very different from all the other things? Or is it a case of, no, I don't want to use that name? You've got to work it out. But always do check things. Don't just take whatever Gemini or ChatGPT give you and just go, okay, I'm going to run with it. You do need to do due diligence. Okay. Okay. So let me just come out of this. God, you guys have been busy, haven't you? On chat. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Nisha. So you might be able to right click before you paste and select paste to text. Yeah, I thought that might do it, but I wasn't getting a paste as text. That's what I normally do. It was just automatically putting it on as an image, which is really weird, but there you go. But thank you, Nish. Mark says, I found spelling with AI can be a big issue with Americanization. Yes. Guess what you can now do, though, Mark? Have you learned that? Say you're using, as a character, you are a British whatever you are. Put that in as a character. Remember the 5 things for prompt engineering? Put that into the beginning before you instruct it to do anything. So, yeah, I get that. But I just put in, I'm a British book publisher. And then I give it my character. And then it starts to write in British English. See, people complain about these things, but they don't realize that these models are just generating on whatever model is being given to them. So bearing in mind that OpenAI is a US-based business, of course they're going to write in US English. You just need to tell it to not write in US English, and they'll stop writing in US English. So it sounds really simple, but a lot of people don't realize that. You just need to engineer it. So I hope that's helped you. Any questions, by the way? Oh, Cambria, you're sending me all these amazing pictures that you've generated on AI. Is this Midjourney that you're using? I don't know if Cambria is still on the call. Yeah, the images look amazing, but I wonder if it's Midjourney or whether you're using Stable Diffusion. That's great. Okay, so any thoughts? I'd love to know your thoughts. Have you learned anything? Nish, by the way, you wanted help regarding learning to write children's books using AI. Has that given you an idea now how to engineer the prompts so you can get ideas?
It's occupational hazard there. It does. I have quite a few ideas, in fact, in the spreadsheet, and I do use AI quite heavily. I actually teach prompting,
Oh,
so this has been quite helpful for understanding how prompting can be specific to authoring. There are other things that I want to work on as well. For example, images and how we can put those together, to keep characters consistent. But this has been super helpful because this has given me essentially a template going forward to say, look, these are the things. So I've actually been crafting a prompt in the background. So for example, suggest ideas for a children book about, and I'll give it a title for children age between in the style of, say, Roald Dahl and Roger Hargreaves and other beloved children's authors, as though you're a renowned children's author. The text should be no more than the length of a small novella or something like that. So you're giving me a
oh, I'm
quick
so pleased. Please do
prompt.
stay in touch and say to let me know what the output is and what you do with it. But that's all it is. I think a lot of people, I think the biggest thing I've learned about all of these LLMs is that we're treating them as if they're an assistant that's been working for us for about 5 years. And they were complaining when they're doing things not in the style that we want it to do. But it's a very intelligent assistant that's on its first day of work placement with you. That's how we need to see it as. And you will say somebody starts to work with you, no matter how bright they are, you don't just automatically assume that they will know your way of thinking and how you do things. You would spend a good few weeks training that person up, and only then grumbling after a few months if they're still making mistakes and they're not really understanding your way of working. At that point, you would grumble, but you wouldn't grumble on the first day. That would make you a terrible employer. It's the same thing. We're grumbling about these large language models, but we're not thinking, hang on, this is a very extremely the most intelligent assistant you'll ever have, but it's their first day on the job. So you need to feed them context. Who's your audience? Who are you? What are you trying to convey? Give them models and templates for them to work on. And once you do that, you'll be amazed at the output that you get from these. I'm amazed. It's like sometimes they write more like me than I do. And I'm just thinking that's a little scary, really. That sounds you're laughing, but it's true. Is I sometimes they write an email and go, oh my God, that's actually more me than me. That's like me on a good day. And I don't always have good days, I have bad days as well.
Is that a bad thing?
But no, it's not a bad thing. I just wonder if it just kind of took over, then would I even need to exist? Like, I'm going well into dystopian science fiction now. I'm going like, 50 years to the future. I'm just thinking, what if this is a perfect Matali online? Then is there any use for me anymore? But now we're going far into the future. But yeah, sometimes it writes so well that I just think that's exactly how I would have written it on a really, really good day when I'm being very creative. And it's able to do that all the time, which I'm not able to do. But it's all about context. So I'm glad that's helping you. Please do stay in touch. I'd love to know what you get out of it. Regarding images, what are you planning on using? Is it things like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion or?
Well, so I'm playing with a various number of them, even down to Firefly in Adobe. Like I'm
Oh
mixing and
yes.
matching a bunch of them. The issue, and I'm still doing a bit of research into this, is character consistency. So you
Yes.
start off with one, and then you end up with another bear at the other end, and it's kind of, what, I kind of just need to work that out. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I haven't had a breakthrough yet, but I'm sure it's not too far out.
Excellent, excellent. Well, remember, do you know Cambria, or Cambria's got a heart out there? Do you know Cambria? Not maybe you guys I need to put you guys in touch, because from the images that Cambria has been able to create, and she's dropped into the chat, she's getting some serious character consistency.
These look like they're coming straight out of uh, the default out of say Bing, for example. They're pretty
Oh,
straightforward
I
to
see.
generate.
I thought she generated them. Right. Okay. Yeah, I've tried playing around, and that's the biggest issue. I even tried playing around with my image, and it won't do exactly my image. So I look like one of my sisters that I've never had, but it's not me. It's very strange. Keith's laughing, but it's so true. I've looked at it, it's like it's me, and yet it's not me. I would not convince anybody at all that that is me, and yet it is me, but it's very weird. It's uncanny valley, I guess we call it. So yeah, that I guess will be the issue for you. Let me
But
let me
we'll have a chat about it offline. But essentially, it's just making sure Winnie the Pooh is the same at the end of the the book as he was at the beginning. Not.
Well, yeah, you
changing
need the
in
character.
shape.
You need the character to be consistent all the way through. Otherwise children are going to pick up and say, "Why is this character changing? What's going on?" So yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions or feedback? I'd love to know what you guys have been using AI for, and whether this has helped you, given you more ideas of how to engineer your prompts. Or have I stunned you all into silence
Hi
now?
there,
Hi,
Cambria
Cambria.
here. Hi. So my thoughts on this are, uh, I enjoy with Meta. I recently had them conduct a Rorschach test on me and a word association test on me, and we had a
Yeah.
really fun time with that. And the Rorschach test was interesting because they used like not emoji but symbols, and I'm it's 4 o'clock in the morning over here, so my
Oh,
brain's
bless
not
you. Well,
fully
thank you for
active.
joining. That shows dedication, turning up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Cambria. And please be aware that I would love for you to come for future forums as well. But in case that really breaks into your sleeping patterns, Joycey, who's in the room with you, she always makes sure the replays are sent out on Thursday. So if you can't come to a forum, please don't worry. I feel a little bit bad that I've got you out of bed at 4 in the morning. So if you can come, that's great. But if you can't come in the future, we'll make sure the replays are sent out to you, my love. Okay? But thank you for coming. I really appreciate that.
Thanks,
Um,
love.
oh, thank you. Okay, so before I go, what I'd like to do, I think Nish has already booked some time to speak to me, which is fantastic. I look forward to speaking to you, Nish. So for the rest of you, most of you guys, I think you've already had, well, Stanley is already one of my clients. I'm looking forward to him starting with me. Can't wait to start Stanley on his book. I know it's going to be a fantastic book. He's already, I don't know if you guys know, I'm actually walking on my treadmill backwards, and that's all because of Stanley. Because Stanley said I need to start walking backwards because I'm neurodivergent, and it will actually create new synapses in my brain. So now I only walk backwards on my treadmill because of Stanley. So that's just a tiny nugget of what he's taught me. I know his book is going to be mind-blowing. If it's all information like that, it's going to be a mind-blowing book. So I can't wait to start with it. But what I'd like to do is, for the rest of you, if you haven't booked a call with me, let me show you quickly how you can do that. So let me just go back to my slides for just a tiny moment. Okay, so let's actually now come out of this. Okay, so this will just give you an idea of what some of my clients have been able to do. It really is all about thought leadership. If you've got a big idea, a story, a mission that you need to get out there in a big way, this is what some of my clients are able to do. They end up in papers, they end up on TV, they end up working with key influencers who get their ideas out there for them. This will just give you an idea of what some of my clients are doing. So this is Luke. He's actually written 2 books now with me. So he's had a fantastic experience, and he's threatening to come back and write a 3rd book with me as well. But he's a perfect example of what can happen. He just had an idea. He had an idea that disaffected white men in the UK are being left behind by society. And he said the best way to get them engaged and to keep them out of trouble so they're not going in and out of jail and all that kind of stuff is to actually get them to think about their physical fitness first. Once the physical fitness is in there, then the mind fitness can come in later. What a lot of people are doing in this country is trying to either using punishment with these young men, just sticking them in jail, which doesn't work. They just come out even more hardened criminals, so that just doesn't help. Or there seems to be this, oh, let's give them lots of therapy. But a lot of men, especially in working class backgrounds, I come from a working class background myself, so I know some of these men who've been in and out of jail, and they are not able to be reached that way. Whereas if you get them to focus and treat their bodies well, then treating their minds well comes afterwards. It's such a fantastic thought, and this is what Luke's all about. And that's what's helped him write 2 books now. He wants to write a 3rd book with me. And he goes around and he now speaks on stages around the UK and even in Europe on this idea. And he's got 2 very successful businesses on the back of it. So that's the kind of things that I help people with. So if you do have a book idea, someone like Stanley who's got fantastic ideas for his books, do come and have a chat with me. And the audit is in 2 parts. The first part, I will audit your book idea to make sure that it's a successful idea. it doesn't matter how great you are. If the idea is not good, your book is not going to fly. And I'll promise to be very, very honest with you. If I don't think it's a good book idea, I will tell you. We could even brainstorm other book ideas that would be great for you. And then part 2, we'll look at what process will help you succeed. So that's all it is. We basically look at your book idea and see whether it's suitable for you to move forward on or not. Okay, so the easiest way to do this, let me just put this into the chat as well, is just go to this link. So let me put this in here. And I'm sure you know how this works. There's a small video showing, giving you a little bit more detail on what we will cover. And then all you have to do is just book some time in. So you know how this works. You just pick a date that suits, pick a time that suits, fill in your information, and then it'll be put into your calendar and it goes into my calendar as well. So for those who haven't, I would love to speak to you about your book idea. Let me make sure I put you on the right path. You know, what I don't want is, I've met so many people in the last, oh God, 6-7 years now, who've already written a book. They put the time and effort and the money, and they've written a book, and it was just not a great book idea for them. And my heart just hurts for them, because all that time and effort and money spent, and what for? It's got to work for you. It's not just that to be a great book. It has to work for you and what you want to get out of life and the mission and the values that you want to put out there. So do have a chat to me. Even if I tell you it's a terrible book idea, it's best you know now than years later. And then you're thinking, why do I spend all that time and effort and money? And then we can at least brainstorm some great book ideas for you. And then you can move forward that way. Okay. So let me just come out of this. Any final thoughts? Or yes, Stanley, he's already gone. Yes. So any other final thoughts or ideas? Alan, you've been very quiet, my love. You snuck in very so halfway through. How are you doing?
I'm sorry. I'm protecting myself from the light. I can't stand up. I immediately get dizzy. I've got to rest all the time. I've got to get back into hospital, but I made it here part of the time.
Oh, I feel so honored. Even when you're ill, you still want to come and get some information. So I really appreciate that, Alan. And don't worry, anything that you missed, you will get that workbook. Thank you, Mark. Lovely to see you. See you another time. And as you know, Joyce will make sure she gets the workbook out to you tomorrow, mid-afternoon, early afternoon. So mid-morning, early afternoon. So anything you've missed will be in the workbook, and you'll get the replay as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Any final thoughts, or is that everything? That's everything. Well, I hope that's helped you guys, even if you don't remember the entire. Like I said, I always talk about books because, of course, I'm going to talk about books. I'm a publisher. That's what I do. So I'm going to talk about books. However, a lot of the stuff that I teach in the forum, please be aware, it goes far beyond books. What I told you about the 5 things to add into an engineered prompt, you can please do use that for everything. When you want to create emails, when you want to create articles, when you want to create images, as Nish will be doing, like, you know, playing around. If you're on AI like Stable Diffusion or Mid-Journey or anything like that, go and put in those things, put in what the audience is, put in the context. Think of these tools as the most brightest assistant that you will ever have in your entire life, but it's their first day. And no matter how bright they are, on their first day, they're not going to know how you work. Feed it with all the context and you'll be amazed at the output that you get from it. So please do stay in touch and let me know how you get on with your prompting. Okay? Thank you so much. I hope to see you in another future forum, and have a good rest of the week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.